I spent 40 years building a home for my family, brick by brick, sacrifice by sacrifice. But the morning after I retired at 62, my daughter-in-law looked me straight in the eyes and said something I will never forget. "There's no place for you in this house anymore." My own son stood there, silent. That day, I walked out of the house I built with my own hands, carrying only a small suitcase and a broken heart. But what they didn't know was that I was holding a secret that would change their lives forever. And before this story ends, the people who threw me out of my own home will learn a lesson they will never forget. Welcome to my YouTube channel Moral Ecos, where silence speaks. As soon as I retired, my son's wife kicked me out. "There's no place for you in this house." A life story told by Peter, age 62. I never thought the worst day of my life would come one day after my retirement. Not after 40 years of hard work. Not after sacrificing everything for my family. And certainly not because of the people I love the most. But life has a cruel way of surprising you. My name is Peter, and I am 62 years old. For 4 decades, I woke up before sunrise, worked until my bones ached, and gave every ounce of my strength to build a stable life for my family. I believed I was building a future. Instead, I was building a house that I would one day be thrown out of. And the person who said the words that broke my heart wasn't a stranger. It was my own daughter-in-law. She looked me straight in the eyes and said, "There's no place for you in this house anymore." The morning I thought my life was finally beginning. The morning after my retirement felt peaceful. For the first time in 40 years, I woke up without the sound of my alarm clock. No rush. No stress. No long hours waiting for me at a construction site. Just quiet. Sunlight gently filled the kitchen as I brewed my morning coffee. I remember smiling to myself. This is it, I thought. This is the life I worked so hard for. I sat down at the kitchen table and looked around the house. Every corner held memories. The wooden cabinets I installed myself. The dining table where my son did his homework. The living room where my late wife, Margaret, used to sit and read every evening. 12 years ago, cancer took her away from us. Losing her was the hardest thing I had ever experienced. But after she passed, I made a promise to myself. I would do everything in my power to give our son, Daniel, a good life. And I did. Raising my son alone. Being a single father wasn't easy. There were nights when I came home exhausted after working 10 hours at the construction site, yet I still had to cook dinner, wash clothes, and help Daniel with his schoolwork. Sometimes I barely slept. But whenever I looked at him, I reminded myself why I was doing it. Daniel was my pride. My hope. My reason to keep going. I worked overtime shifts just so I could afford his college tuition. When he graduated, I felt like all my sacrifices were finally worth it. When Daniel got married, 5 years ago, Daniel introduced me to a woman named Claire. She seemed charming at first. She smiled politely, spoke softly, and even called me Dad. I welcomed her into the family with open arms. Because if my son loved her, I wanted to love her too. When they got married, I made a decision that would later become my biggest mistake. I invited them to live with me. "This house is big enough for all of us," I told them. Daniel hesitated at first. "Dad, are you sure?" But I smiled. "This house will be yours someday anyway." Claire's eyes lit up when she heard that. At the time, I thought it was happiness. Now I know better. The house I built with my own hands. This wasn't just any house. It was the result of 40 years of sweat, pain, and sacrifice. I built most of it myself. I remember carrying heavy wood beams during the day and installing them late at night. I planted the trees in the yard when Daniel was only 8 years old. I still remember him running around the garden while I worked. "Dad, when I grow up, I'll buy you a bigger house," he once said. I laughed and ruffled his hair. "Just be a good man, son. That's enough for me." But somewhere along the way, something changed. The subtle chain. After Daniel and Claire moved in, the atmosphere slowly shifted. At first, it was small things. Claire would stop talking whenever I entered the room. Sometimes she gave me looks that made me feel unwelcome. Other times she would complain about small things. "Peter leaves his tools everywhere." "Peter watches TV too loudly." "Peter is always in the living room." Daniel usually stayed quiet. I convinced myself it was normal. Every family has disagreements. But deep down, I felt like a guest in my own home. My retirement celebration. 2 days before everything collapsed, my company held a retirement ceremony for me. They gathered everyone in the conference room. My boss stood up and gave a speech. "Peter has been one of the most dedicated workers this company has ever had," he said. 40 years of loyalty, 40 years of honesty. Everyone applauded. Some of my coworkers even shook my hand with tears in their eyes. They gave me a plaque engraved with my name. Peter WLLIMS, 40 years of service. At that moment I felt proud. I felt like my life had meaning. I couldn't wait to go home and celebrate with my family. But when I arrived home, the house felt strangely quiet. Claire barely looked up from her phone. Daniel congratulated me quickly before returning to his laptop. No dinner. No celebration. No excitement. I ignored the disappointment. Maybe they're planning a surprise, I told myself. I had no idea the real surprise would come the next morning. The words that destroyed my world. The next morning, while I was drinking my coffee, Claire walked into the kitchen. Her expression was serious. "Cold." "Peter," she said. "Yes." She crossed her arms and leaned against the counter. "Now that you're retired, what are your plans?" I smiled. "Well, I suppose I'll enjoy life a little, maybe fix the garden, travel a bit." She interrupted me. "That's not going to work." I frowned. "What do you mean?" Then she said the words that shattered my heart. "There's no place for you in this house anymore." For a moment, I thought I had misunderstood. "I'm sorry, what did you say?" She sighed impatiently. "You heard me. Daniel and I need privacy. We need our own space." My hands started trembling. "But this is my house." She smirked slightly. "Yes, technically it is." Then she added something that made my blood run cold. "But you did say it would be Daniel's someday." I felt a knot tighten in my chest. "Yes, someday." She shrugged. "Well, someday is now." The ultimate betrayal. At that moment, Daniel walked into the kitchen. Relief washed over me. "Daniel," I said quickly, "tell your wife she's joking." But he avoided my eyes. "Dad," he said quietly. My heart sank. Claire spoke again. "We've been discussing this for weeks." Weeks. They had been planning to throw me out. Behind my back. "Daniel," I said, my voice shaking, "I spent my entire life building this house for you." "I know, Dad." "Then why are you letting this happen?" He rubbed his forehead. "It's just, Claire and I want to start our own life. And that life doesn't include me." Silence filled the room. And in that silence, I understood everything. Leaving my own home. That afternoon, I packed my belongings into a single suitcase. 40 years of memories, reduced to a few clothes and old photographs. Daniel stood quietly in the hallway as I walked toward the door. He didn't stop me. He didn't apologize. Claire opened the front door and said, "Good luck, Peter." I stepped outside. The cold wind hit my face. For the first time in my life, I felt completely alone. But as I walked down the driveway, something inside me changed. Because hidden inside my jacket pocket was a letter from the bank. A letter containing a secret that Daniel and Claire knew nothing about. And soon, that secret would change everything. Moral: life teaches us that sacrifice does not always guarantee gratitude. Sometimes the people we love the most are the ones who hurt us the deepest. But patience, dignity, and truth always reveal themselves in the end. Because respect cannot be demanded. It must be earned. If this story touched your heart, don't forget to subscribe to the channel, because every story here leaves behind a lesson.